Well, throughout this week on our conversations and ways to create an enabling environment for filmmakers in Nigeria and Africa at large, funding has been a central point being made. You know, the importance of funding for our creative space has been emphasized, but how these funding will come and who the beneficiaries will be is a completely different conversation. You know, how do we ensure that these funds reach the right recipients, the people who need this? How do we ensure that they get it? Well, joining me on Arise 360 to speak on several avenues for funding, how to even find the people who will become recipients of this fund. To start with, Paul Robinson, the Chief Creative Officer for Nefty Vodka. In 2020, actually, Paul did something quite interesting. You know, a short film. He's founded the Nefty competition. It's a short film competition created to find and inspire talented emerging filmmakers internationally. I know there's some money involved in this. I've also got Mostafa Nagy. He will be joining me as well from our Lagos studio. Now, what's interesting about Mostafa, which I absolutely love, is if you think of the creative arts, the University for Creative Arts in the UK, you're looking at the project director for the School of Film. And it's lovely to have you gentlemen join me on Arise 360 today. So I would like to start with this. AFRIF has been an interesting festival over the last few days, and you both have been integral parts of it. And I know you also have master classes coming up much later this week, but I would like to just get a general assessment of what you've seen so far and your thoughts on what's been going on, especially the movies that's been showing. I'm going to start with you, Paul, since I called your name first. You could go first.
Okay, well, thank you for having me here. Very happy to be here. For me, AFRIF, so far, I've only seen one film because we've been getting ready for our screening, which is tomorrow, and for our session, which is tomorrow. But I'm looking forward to seeing many films at this festival when I have some time off after we're finished. But I did get to see Aura today, which was really, really good. And AFRIF is very busy and buzzing, I'll say that for sure. And I've been meeting some really incredible people out here. So, like I said, very, very happy to be here. And I've got with me, at the festival, I have four finalists for the Nefty competition this year. And we're going to be screening their films tomorrow night and announcing the winner.
I love that. You know, what's interesting is I was looking through the Nefty competition and I was just saying to myself, we need some more of this. But before we touch on that, Mostafa Nagy, you were the project director for the School of Film. So I imagine you're around a lot of talent. So what's been in AFRIF here in Nigeria been like for you so far?
It's been fantastic. The collaboration that we've got between the University of the Creative Arts and the project that we're doing with AFRIF is just very interesting. Because it's a Pan-African thing, it's not just for Nigeria, but it's for the whole African nations all over the continent. We opened an open call for 30 scriptwriters, and we ran a 2.5-month screenwriting lab. Where the participants came for 2.5 months, worked on the scripts, and it culminates now in AFRIF, where they're all coming here to start looking at their pictures, and we're going to select some of them, and these ones will be selected, and hopefully we'll try to get them commissioned. So the collaboration between the University of the Creative Arts in the UK and AFRIF is just so great, because we really, really advocate African filmmakers. We are into the business of creating the future filmmakers, not only in globally. We really want to be a global player, and how best but to just join somebody like AFRIF, which is a fantastic festival, buzzing with the filmmakers that want to start their careers, people that want to learn more about films, film lovers. It is a great atmosphere. So anybody that hasn't experienced a film festival like AFRIF before, I highly recommend you come down and feel the festival, because everybody's just talking about the films all around the festival, and just creative buzz, unbelievable. Great to be here.
I couldn't agree with you more. So let's jump into the crux of why we're here. Strategic funding, and I'm going to start with you again, Paul. We've said so much about the importance of putting money in. Now, that was the start of the conversation. That was what I dwelled on yesterday. Now, today, we're going to get to the meat of it all. the actual money. It is here. You have the Nifty competition. UCA UK is equally bringing in some level of support, in their own capacity. So these are available. But now I want to know how the process works. What are the mechanics to getting access to these funds and getting selected? You mentioned you have 4 of your shortlisted films at AFRIF already to be screened. So what was the process of selection like? How did you get to this point?
Okay, well, actually, it's 3 films. It's 4 filmmakers because 2 of them are a team, producer and director team. But basically, the way the Nifty competition works is we go out to the film community through some of our partners, and once it's a pretty simple process to apply. You just need to apply with a good synopsis about what your short film idea. And you apply on our website, and then from all those filmmakers, we narrow it down to our 10 favorite synopsises. And from that point, those 10 then have to pitch their short film idea to our panel of judges. And the judges then narrow that down to 3, and we give each one of those 3 filmmakers $3,000 to make their short film, and then those 3 films compete for the winning prize, which is $5,000, and the Audience Choice Award, which is $2,000. This Nifty Nigeria is our first single country Nifty that we've had. I started Nifty globally, so anyone in an emerging economy could apply, and so we had several different countries represented as finalists and semifinalists. And I just felt like it was just spread too thin, so I narrowed it down to regionally, and I made it all about the African continent for Nifty Africa. Still felt like that might be a little large, and so now Nigeria is our first single country one, and I'm really enjoying it because I feel like we can have a much greater impact and help filmmakers and help them to convey their individuality better if I can understand their individuality and their culture and where they come from, which is a lot harder to do if I'm trying to focus on several countries at a time.
So it's interesting.
That's basically how
it's interesting you'd say that, because when I was looking at what Jeffrey Mahoney had to say about your involvement with Nifty with regards to the art, he said you have a way of just paying attention to the human element, and that is like a driving force for every single art that you decide to put your heart into or you decide to put yourself into. And I see that fully embodied in the Nifty competition. I think it's a deeply personal process. But I would also like to understand something about it. When you say for emerging African economies, access to, what's the process of reaching out to these emerging economies? Do you reach out to organizations, or is it through specific avenues that they have to equally apply? Or, because I just want to know how easy is it to get on board? You said it's easy, but how easy is it?
Well, so far, Nifty has grown considerably since I started it. So we've received a lot more applicants. Our scope is a lot broader, but mostly it comes from our partners' network of filmmakers. Like our partners, IAFTA, they have a pretty large emerging film talent roster that they've been working with for years, and so their filmmakers apply. And then every Nifty competition we have, we end it and screen it in a film festival. And so whatever festival that is, we use their database to do a call out to applicants. But in the coming Nifties, I think what will happen is that we'll find a much broader way to go out to filmmakers. Even doing a press and stuff like this, filmmakers are allowed to apply. They don't have to. We do get filmmakers applying from friends that tell them, or they read it somewhere, they see it on social media. So applying for it is very easy because anyone can apply. I mean, we do require that you show some previous works because this is a competition to help filmmakers who are dedicated to this being, their career. This is what they want to do, because those are the artists that I really want to spend the time helping, to help them further their career, help make their voices a lot louder in international arenas that they may not have had access to in the past. But to apply, basically you can just go to the website and apply. It's whether you get chosen or not. And I will say that comes down to your pitch.
That's a very important one. Now, let's talk about that pitch for a moment. And I would like to bring in Mostafa to this conversation, because you are the project director for the School of Film. So I imagine you come across a lot of pitches and you come across a lot of stories. What would you say are the types of projects or the elements that you often look out for when you would like to select a great pitch, or you would like to select a project to move on with? What are some elements that you look out for?
Well, first of all, I look at the story. The story is very important. Story is something that I always tell my students is the first most important thing, followed by character and then narrative. So these are the three elements that we're always looking for, and we're trying to tell our emerging filmmakers, these are the things that you start looking at, and how narrative is driven by character, and character is action. So it's all about the action, and it's all about visual storytelling. We are working in a medium that is very visual, and we need to make sure that everybody understands how the story develops and what are the beats that these stories are following. And how you can explain that to somebody in a very easy and a very quick way, because your pitch is basically, you've got what we call an elevator pitch. You've got that first opportunity, you've got to grab them straight away and understand what the character is all about, what the narrative is, and how is it driven by that character, and what they're trying to achieve and why. And we're always looking for stories that are relatable to us as human beings, so that it doesn't matter where you're from, because all humans have got the same sort of mechanism of thinking in the brain, and how we translate stories. So yeah, it is very important to understand what is important to your target audience, and it doesn't matter if it's niche, it doesn't matter if it's, or as Americans say, a niche. It's very important that you target your audience and make sure that your story comes through. I want to hear your voice. As a filmmaker, your voice is very important, and what you care about will come out in the passion for that film that you are trying to pitch to whoever you're pitching to. So we're working with our storytellers to let them say what they care about, if it's the environment, if it's about their living conditions, if it's about human rights, if it's about things that they care about the most, that will come through in their stories. So it's all about the story.
You've spoken like a true teacher, because even I am now thinking, do I want to be a filmmaker? do I want to go into this? But
teacher.
No, really, like a real guide, like I'm now thinking, what, maybe I should join your masterclass. Maybe I need to be in there, because there's so much to pick from this. But also, I know that we have a very raw industry here in Nigeria, an industry where we have a lot of people who often haven't had any formal training when it comes to filmmaking. And, that might not be the same with other competitors, but we've been able to work and do our best with what we have. But I would also like to ask you both on some standard, or what I would call best practices in the industry. What are some updates with regards to new technology that we could also capitalize on? Because yes, the money is available, that is if they get the pitch or if they win, but just generally speaking, what are some best practices, new technology that we might want to start tilting our focus to? And I'm gonna begin again with you, Paul, and Mostafa, I would love you to also jump in on this as well.
I would say, as far as best practices in terms of technology, I think there are several, and I think what's the most important for a filmmaker is to constantly, to constantly research what is going to help them make their film the best. And by the way, that is not necessarily always new technology, because I think there are several situations where where there are, well, let's say, old school tactics that can be used that are extremely helpful in anything any filmmaker is doing today. And in a lot of ways, I find that many young filmmakers jump too quickly to the immediate, and they don't really do their research to figure out how to tell the story, as you were saying, you know, in the best way. If you want to go back to pitching, you know, there are many very, very talented filmmakers who have no idea how to pitch. And I see that constantly with our competition, that some of the things there are some things that are equally as important to finishing your film and getting your film made as actually producing it. Because the pitch, you know, in our competition and in many situations can be the deciding factor as to whether you get your film made or not, or whether you make it to the final. So I think, you know, new technology, great. There are several things that you can do to keep yourself up to speed on that, but I think it's really important to also remember the basics and how to pitch, how to tell a story, and, you know, things like shot lists. And so there's so many basic things that I think filmmakers really have to remember or learn or take into account.
Mostafa, would you also want to jump on this before?
Yes, I'll say that the democratization of technology has enabled current filmmakers and people that are coming out into the industry to live my dream. And that my dream was when I was starting my career. I won't say how many years ago, but it was impossible for us but to work with the chunky equipment, with the big studios, with the big lights. Nowadays, the democratization of technology and the availability for smaller technologies that can enable us to do high quality films has just made filmmaking so accessible. But there are basics that you have to understand. And if you wanted to know a little bit more about that, I am having a masterclass all about the new technologies in filmmaking and what the new technologies are, like camera to cloud, that's currently working collaboratively across countries. I myself created a Netflix documentary a couple of years ago, filming in 7 countries, where I didn't leave my studio, the place where I was working. Collaboratively with people and sharing media across the world. I'm currently in collaboration with several other filmmakers that are based in Africa, in the US, in Malaysia, and beyond, that I'm collaborating with and editing stuff, and they're filming, I'm editing, I'm filming, they are editing. We have the availability now for the technology to enable us to work collaboratively, where in the past we used to have to be, in one place. So you can see the technology has enabled us now that you're in one place, we're in another, and yet our viewers would not know that we are in separate places, but we are exactly in the same environment, and that is being enabled by the technologies and by the streaming abilities, and by, you've got things like TVU and cellular bonding. You've got so many technologies that has enabled us now to work collaboratively and work with each other and be more creative as filmmakers.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And quite honestly, it's also made the job easier, if I do say so myself, and better. But I'm really looking forward to that master class that you spoke about, because I know it touches on new technologies and it touches on some of the best practices, like we've lightly touched on. Paul Robinson, the Chief Creative Officer, Nefti Vodka, and of course Mostafa Nagy, the Project Director, the School of Film at the University for the Creative Arts UK. Thank you both so much for joining me on the show today. We were able to get some glimpse of knowledge out of this, but I look forward to other projects that you will be looking out for at AFRIF 2023.